even possible to learn this language myself?
If you have ever tried to learn Mandarin Chinese, there is a high chance that you already experienced this feeling at least once. Well, as you might already know, Mandarin Chinese is my native tongue, so I've never really had to learn this language. But when I try to put myself in a beginner's shoes, try to imagine I know nothing about this language. And that was the moment when I realized, oh my God, this language is difficult. This language is tough, but no worries. I'm here to help you. The only two goals that I'm making this video is to share with you what to do when you have just no idea where to start with this language. How to start learning by yourself. I'm really gonna focus how to do it yourself, just by ourselves, And the second goal is I don't want you to give up on this. I'll try my best to not let you give up on this language. So I'll try to make the process, the journey as fun as possible. Okay? But before we start, let me first answer some common questions you might have with Mandarin Chinese. First of all, why is Mandarin Chinese one of the toughest languages in the whole world? Well, actually, I'm not sure if I 100% agree with this statement. The thing is, it really depends on from which aspect you look at it. For example, if you consider the vocabulary, the Chinese characters, and also the tones, the pronunciation, then yes, it's probably one of the hardest. But if we only look at the grammar itself, for example, it's actually relatively easy. The grammar itself is actually easier than the English grammar. For example, the Chinese verb, it doesn't have to change according to the tenses. The future tense, the past tense, and also the present tense, it stays the same. And second questions you might have is, should I learn the simplified Chinese or the traditional Chinese? The quick and short answer is just go for the simplified one because there are more resources available and also it's being used by a much wider population and then it's easier to learn. I would say you can consider learning the traditional one if you are going to come to live in Taiwan, for example, or you are really into the traditional characters or Chinese calligraphy, then you could consider that. Otherwise, I would say just go for the simplified one. Finally, we arrived in the juicy part of this video. So where to start as a complete beginner? So first, I would suggest you to learn the tones because the tones of Mandarin Chinese is really important and it can also be quite challenging. So there are 4 tones in Mandarin Chinese. Let me give you an example with a random word. Ma, ma, ma. Ma, that's 4 tones. Ma is the first tone. Ma is the second tone, ma is the third tone, ma is the fourth tone. So it's just ma, 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 ma. And then you literally can just practice this ma, 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 every day. And I think you will get better at the tones. I actually also found a video explained it really well, so you could also check it out. And the reason why tones in Mandarin Chinese is this important is because based on the tones of a word, it can totally change the meaning of it. And let me give you an example. For example, 你等我一下 means wait for me. The second word, 等, it means wait, and it's the third tone. But if you mistaken it with the fourth tone, it became 你瞪我一下, and this literally means glare at me. So it's totally different. So that's why the tones is this important. So I would say just first start with learning about the tones and just try to practice it every day. Just ma, 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 ma. Every day when you wake up, you just use it to, how do you say, ma, 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 something like that. I know you might be wondering, but do I have to learn Pinyin? Well, if you don't know, Pinyin, I also need to check the internet. Pinyin literally means spell sounds.
is the most commonly used system for transcribing or spelling out the Chinese sounds. So basically, it's a tool that can help you with pronunciation, and because it uses the letters in the Latin alphabet, so you're already familiar with it. And also when you're going to type things out in Chinese, you are also going to need Pinyin. But to be honest, I would not suggest you to just learn Pinyin solely because to be honest, I find it really boring. So I would actually suggest you to learn Pinyin along with the vocabulary, and I'll show you how to do that later. Okay, so now you know the tones. Ma, 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 ma. Still remember it? Ma, 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 ma. So you just like ma, 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 ma. And then the next step, I would recommend you to play around with this app. Did you see it? Like Hello Chinese. It's called Hello Chinese, and it's actually kind of similar to Duolingo, but it's like only for Chinese. So there are like some functions I find quite nice that Duolingo lacks. Like this one, for example, is like pretty similar to like you just like choose which one is like United States and this one, right? 美国. And then the reason why I said like don't just study like Pinyin solely is because in all the the Chinese character like up there's like Pinyin, so you can always just like learn Pinyin that way. So I find it more interesting, not just like learn Pinyin solely. I find it like way too boring, so just learn it together along with the vocabulary you are learning, and the more you look at it, you will just like learn Pinyin naturally. And then I find this function super cool. By the way, I'm not sponsored by this app at all. I'm just like found this like literally like yesterday. And then like this one, it will tell you like this is like person, 人. And then you can you can try to write it. Practice your writing in this app, which I find super cool. So just like this. Ta-da! So yeah, you can just download this is free, and you can just like play around with it. I think this is a nice one to start to learn more about the Mandarin Chinese in a pretty fun way, and you can learn about the Pinyin, the vocabulary, and also a little bit of the basic sentences, and also a little bit of the writing at the same time. The reason that Chinese is difficult is because of all its characters and the vocabulary and also the pronunciation. So that's what we are going to focus on. So after you practice the tones, ma, 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 and also play around with the apps, the next thing you can try to do is to look for articles that teach common Mandarin Chinese phrases like this one that I'm showing you right now. So like they have all this like common Chinese phrases. The reason why I think learning phrases is better is because it's just much more interesting, you know, just like learning the single word or just like a vocabulary. It's just kind of boring because you don't know how to use it. But just like learn a full sentence, you can just use it right away without you have to form a sentence yourself. You know, like now you're still a very new, like a newbie, a beginner, so it would still be difficult to form a sentence yourself. So I would just like say that learning sentences is much more interesting. And let's look at the first one, hello. So there's like the English translation and also the Chinese characters, as you can see, and also there's like Pinyin, so you can learn the Pinyin along with just the vocabulary. Don't have to learn it like solely, and you can listen to the sound.
你好.
你好, and just repeat after it. In the beginning, you don't want to overwhelm yourself, so you can just pick 3 to 5 phrases a day and just repeat after it, and started to learn to recognize the Chinese characters, because Chinese characters, I know it can be so overwhelming because there are so many of them. Don't worry too much about it. I would say the more you look at it, the more you will start to recognize more and more, and try to look at it more like a picture. Use your eyes more like a camera. Just try to, you know, use your eyes inside like a camera, you know, and just like try to memorize it. Oh, by the way, I'll put a website that I found in the description box. You can check it out. But if you can't find too many websites teaching you common Chinese phrases, then you can use this Mandarin frequency list that I'm showing you right now. And the good thing is that at least they have like audio with all the word that is showing here. But the problem is they don't offer like a sentence, and you would want to learn it with a sentence. Otherwise, you have no idea how it's gonna work in in a context. So you can just copy it and paste it to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to make a sentence like this, like make an easy sentence using the word 在, which is the word that you just saw here. And you know, it's just like created like a sentence, and you can ask it to add Pinyin, so you can also learn about the Pinyin here, 我在学校, but you would also want the audio, so we go to Google Translate to
我在学校
ask Google Translate to pronounce it to us. That's how you learn phrases if you cannot really find websites that you are satisfied with.
And lastly, I would recommend you to immerse yourself by watching Chinese drama, listen to Chinese podcasts, and also Chinese vlog. And I do have some recommendations for a Chinese drama. You could check out a drama called 家有儿女. I didn't even watch it before myself, but I saw so many people who are learning Chinese recommended this one because of how it's like pretty short, and it's about like a family, I think, living in Beijing or something like that. So everything they talk are all like related to daily life. So you could check it out. I'll put a link in the description box as well. And also another vlog that I find pretty nice is a channel called Talk in Chinese, Red. And I really like this because she speaks relatively slow, and she always put like not only Chinese subtitles, but also like the English translation and also the Pinyin, which I find it really good to use as a tool to better not only your listening, but also you can practice your pronunciation by doing shadowing practice. You can watch my video about how you can do shadowing practice, and also you can learn about the Pinyin as well. I'll also put the link in the description box. And for the podcast, I would really recommend one called Chinese Pod, and there's one specifically for beginner. I think it's really nice in a sense that it was explained in English, and they included like short dialogue in each episode, and they started to explain to you like the sentences and the vocabulary in the dialogue. So it's a really nice podcast for a beginner to listen. They have like a whole series for newbie, so yeah, you can also check that out to immerse yourself more in the environment.
So that's the end of today's video. I hope you find it helpful, and please let me know if you have any questions in the comment area. I would say this like video, all the suggestions and recommendations I included, like my methods, my resources, are relatively how do you say, I just want you to enjoy this language. So it's not really like very hardcore or very like structured at all, because I think in the first few months is usually the time that is very easy for learners to give up. So I think it's actually more important to just first enjoy this language, not just like in the first few months you already hate this language because of how hard it is. So yeah, that's basically my video. And I'm like to be honest, like I'm really scared of publishing this video because, you know, like I'm a native speaker, so I've never had to learn this language myself. So I really tried my best already to put myself in you guys' shoes and like imagine myself as a complete beginner. But anyway, like if there's anything that I should add but didn't add, just feel free to comment down below. And I'll see you again in the next video, okay? Bye bye. Bye bye.